When I first started learning English, I didn't know where to begin. The language felt big, full of strange words and rules that seemed impossible to understand. I remember sitting in my room with a notebook, trying to copy sentences from a book. I wanted to be fluent so much, but it all felt overwhelming. Then one day, my teacher gave me advice that changed everything. She said, "Fluency is not about doing everything at once. Start small. Take one step at a time." That advice stayed with me. I realized that learning English is like building a house. You start with one brick, then another, and slowly you build something strong. I decided to take it step by step. The first thing I did was set a goal. My goal was simple: learn 5 new words each week, just 5 words. It seemed small, but it was a start. Each day, I would write the words on small cards. I carried them with me everywhere. While waiting for the bus or during lunch, I would take out the cards and read them. At the end of the week, I tried to use the new words in sentences. Sometimes I got it right, and sometimes I didn't. But every time I used a word, it felt like a little victory. I remember one of my first words was apple. It's such a simple word, but at the time, it felt like a treasure. I practiced saying, "I like apples. I want an apple," and "the apple is red." The more I said it, the more confident I felt. Slowly, my vocabulary grew. One week, it was 5 words. The next week, 5 more. After a few months, I had learned dozens of words, but learning words wasn't enough. I needed to hear how they were used in real life. I started listening to simple English songs. I remember singing "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star" over and over again. At first, I didn't understand all the words, but I could hear the rhythm and how the sentences flowed. I would hum the tune while walking, and soon the words became natural. Another thing that helped me was watching short videos in English. I loved stories with pictures and subtitles. They helped me connect the words to their meaning. I would repeat the sentences I heard in the videos, trying to match the speaker's voice. Sometimes it's strange, and I laughed at myself. But I kept going. One evening, I was practicing at home when my younger brother walked in. He heard me repeating, "How are you?" again and again. He laughed and said, "Why are you talking to yourself?" I smiled and said, "I'm learning." He joined me, and we practiced together. I realized that learning with someone else made it more fun. We corrected each other and laughed when we made mistakes. It was one of the best ways to stay motivated. If you are starting your English journey, remember this: you don't have to be perfect. You just need to start. Write down a few words, repeat them, and try to use them. Every small effort counts. Fluency doesn't happen in one day, but with every step, you get closer. By the way, if you enjoy learning with stories like this, subscribe to our channel. We have more stories to help you improve your English in a fun and easy way. One day, I looked back and realized how far I had come. The journey wasn't easy, but every little step was worth it. And that's how it all begins, with the first step. When I think about my journey to learning English, one thing always stands out: practice. I learned early on that the key to improvement is not talent or luck, but practice. The more I used English, the more comfortable it felt. At first, it was scary. I made many mistakes, and sometimes I felt embarrassed. But I soon understood that every mistake was a step forward. I started practicing every chance I got. In the morning, I would say simple sentences to myself, like, I am brushing my teeth, or I am eating breakfast. Talking about my daily activities helped me remember the words I was learning. I didn't worry about grammar or being perfect. I just focused on using the words in real situations. Listening was another big part of my practice. I found that listening to English as much as possible helped me understand how the language works. I began with short and simple audio stories. I remember listening to a story about a dog who lost his ball. The sentences were easy and the words were familiar. At first, I needed to listen 3 or 4 times to understand everything, but that was okay. Each time, I caught something new. One day, I found an old English song on the radio. The singer's voice was clear, and I could understand some of the words. It was exciting. I started writing down the lyrics and singing along. I didn't sing well, but that didn't matter. Singing made me feel confident, and it helped me remember phrases. Row, row, row your boat became my favorite song for weeks. I sang it everywhere at home, in the car, even in the shower. Another way I practiced was by reading out loud. I had a small book with simple English sentences, and I would read it every evening. I liked the feeling of hearing my own voice in English. Sometimes I recorded myself and listened to the playback. It was strange at first, but it helped me notice the areas I needed to improve. For example, I realized that I was pronouncing some words wrong, like water and table. With more practice, my pronunciation got better. There were times when I felt stuck. Some days, I didn't feel like practicing, or I thought I wasn't improving. On those days, I reminded myself of my goal. I wanted to speak English well, so I could travel, make friends, and explore the world. This goal gave me the energy to keep going. Speaking with other people was one of the best ways to practice. I remember meeting an English teacher at a small cafe in my city. She was very kind and patient. She asked me questions like, "What do you like to do?" or "What is your favorite food?" At first, I answered with short phrases, but over time, my answers became longer. She always encouraged me, saying, "You're doing great." Her support made a big difference. Sometimes I practiced with friends who were also learning English. We played a game where one person described an object and the others guessed what it was. For example, I would say, "It is round, red, and you can eat it," and they would answer, "Apple." It was fun, and it helped us learn new words together. I also practiced in everyday situations. When I went to a store, I tried to name the items in English in my head. Bread, milk, apples. I would say to myself as I walked through the aisles. When I met tourists in my city, I greeted them in English. At first, I was nervous, but their smiles gave me confidence. If you want to improve your English, practice every day. It doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes or 1 hour. What matters is that you use the language. Speak, listen, read, and write as much as you can. Remember, practice doesn't make perfect. It makes progress. Thank you for reading this far. If you enjoy these stories, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We share more tips and stories to help you practice English every day. Practice may feel hard at times, but with each word you speak, you are one step closer to fluency. When I started speaking English, I was very afraid of making mistakes. I worried that people would laugh at me or think I was not smart. This fear held me back for a long time. I stayed quiet in class and avoided conversations. But one day, I realized something important. Mistakes are not bad. They are a part of learning. My teacher helped me understand this. She told the class, "Every time you make a mistake, you learn something new. Without mistakes, you cannot grow." At first, it was hard to believe her, but I decided to try. I told myself, it's okay to be wrong. Just speak. The first time I spoke in class, my voice was shaky. I said, I like to play football, but I used the wrong word for play. My teacher smiled and gently corrected me, saying, "You mean play, not plow." Everyone laughed a little, but not in a mean way. I laughed too. It felt good to try, even if I wasn't perfect. After that day, I started speaking more. I didn't worry about being wrong. If I didn't know a word, I tried to explain it in another way. For example, if I forgot the word fridge, I said, "It's cold inside and you put food in it." People understood, and they often helped me with the correct word. I remember a girl in my class who was very shy. She never raised her hand to speak. One day, the teacher asked her, "What did you do yesterday?" She hesitated, then whispered, "I go park." The teacher said, "Great. Now let's fix it." I went to the park. The girl smiled, and from that day, she started speaking more. Her courage inspired me. Making mistakes is not just about speaking, it's also about listening. I used to listen to English songs and get the lyrics wrong. For example, I thought the song said, "Hold me closer, Tony Danza," instead of "Hold me closer, Tiny Dancer." It made me laugh when I found out the real words. But even when I got the lyrics wrong, I was learning. Another thing that helped me was writing. I started keeping a journal in English. At first, my sentences were simple, like, "Today I go to school." Over time, I noticed my writing improved. I made fewer mistakes, and I felt proud of my progress. One day, I was talking to a friend who spoke English very well. I told him, "I feel bad when I make mistakes." He said, "Why?" "Mistakes are how you learn." Even native speakers make mistakes sometimes. That conversation changed how I saw myself. I realized that learning a language is not about being perfect. It's about communication. I also learned to laugh at my mistakes. Once, I wanted to say, "I am full," after a big meal, but I accidentally said, "I am fool." My friends laughed, and so did I. It was a funny moment, and I never forgot the correct way to say it after that. If you are afraid of making mistakes, remember this. Everyone makes them. Even the best English speakers started where you are now. It's okay to be wrong. What matters is that you try. The more you practice, the more confident you will become. By the way, if you're enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We share more stories and tips to help you feel confident while learning English. The more mistakes you make, the more you learn. Each mistake is a step forward, not backward. So speak, write, and listen with courage. Your fluency will grow, one mistake at a time. When I first started learning English, I didn't realize how important listening was. I thought speaking and writing were the most important parts of the language. But soon, I discovered that listening is like opening a door to fluency. It helps you understand how words sound, how sentences are formed, and how native speakers communicate. One of the first things I did was listen to simple stories in English. These stories were short, with clear words and slow pronunciation. I remember one about a little cat that got lost in a forest. The sentences were easy, like, "The cat is sad, the forest is big." I would listen to the story many times. At first, I didn't understand everything, but each time, it got easier. Listening to music also became part of my routine. I chose songs with slow and clear lyrics. My favorite was "You Are My Sunshine." The words were simple, and I could sing along. Singing helped me practice pronunciation without feeling nervous. Over time, I started listening to faster songs, and I enjoyed trying to catch every word. I also loved watching cartoons. Cartoons are great because the language is simple and the characters speak clearly. Shows like Peppa Pig and Dora the Explorer were not just fun, they were my teachers. When a character said a new word, I paused the show and repeated it. If I didn't know what the word meant, I looked it up and wrote it down. Sometimes I listened to conversations between native speakers. These were more challenging, but I treated them like a game. I focused on the words I knew and tried to guess the meaning of the ones I didn't. One time, I heard someone say, "What's up?" I didn't know what it meant, so I asked my teacher. She explained that it's a casual way of saying, "How are you?" That day, I learned not just a new phrase, but also how people really talk. I remember meeting a tourist in my city. He asked me for directions in English. I listened carefully to his words. At first, I was nervous, but I caught the key words: where, station, and near. I pointed him in the right direction and said, "The station is this way." His smile told me that he understood. That moment gave me confidence. One habit that helped me a lot was listening while doing other things. For example, when I was cooking or cleaning, I played English audio in the background. I didn't need to understand every word. Just hearing the language helped me get used to the sounds and rhythm of English. I also started talking to myself. It sounds funny, but it worked. After listening to a story or song, I repeated what I heard. For example, if I listened to "The cat is on the mat," I would say it out loud a few times. This helped me remember the phrases and practice my pronunciation. Listening also taught me about accents. I noticed that British English sounds different from American English. At first, this confused me, but then I found it exciting. It was like learning two versions of the same language. I started to enjoy hearing different accents and trying to imitate them. If you want to improve your listening skills, start small. Listen to short stories, songs, or even single sentences. Don't worry if you don't understand everything right away. The more you listen, the more you will understand. Listening is like filling a jar with water. Every drop counts. If you're finding this story helpful, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We have more stories, songs, and tips to make learning English fun and easy. Listening is the foundation of fluency. When you listen with focus and curiosity, you learn not just words, but how to use them naturally. So, open your ears and let the language flow into your mind. Speaking English was the most exciting, but also the scariest part of my learning journey. I wanted to express myself, but I was afraid of saying the wrong words or sounding strange. My heart would race every time I tried to speak in front of someone. But I knew that to become fluent, I had to face my fears. The first step was simple: speaking to myself. I would stand in front of a mirror and say things like, "Hello, my name is," or "I like apples." At first, it felt awkward, but it helped me get used to hearing my own voice in English. The mirror became my best friend because it showed me how I looked when I spoke. If I looked nervous, I reminded myself to smile and relax. I also started recording my voice. This was a game changer. I would read a short paragraph or repeat a sentence I heard in a story. Then I listened to the recording. At first, I didn't like how I sounded. But over time, I noticed my pronunciation getting clearer. Recording myself gave me a way to track my progress. Talking to others was the next big challenge. I remember the first time I spoke to a tourist in my city. He asked, "Where is the nearest coffee shop?" My mind went blank for a moment, but I managed to say, "It's over there," while pointing. It was a small conversation, but it gave me a huge boost of confidence. I realized that I didn't need perfect grammar to be understood. Practicing with friends who were also learning English was another great step. We would take turns asking and answering questions like, "What's your favorite movie?" or "What do you like to eat?" Sometimes we made mistakes and we laughed about them. These friendly conversations made speaking fun and less stressful. One trick I used was to slow down when speaking. At first, I thought speaking fast made me sound more fluent, but it actually made nervous and caused me to make more mistakes. I learned that speaking slowly and clearly was much better. It gave me time to think about my words and made it easier for others to understand me. Another thing that helped was practicing phrases instead of single words. For example, instead of just learning "thank you," I practiced saying, "Thank you for your help," or "Thank you so much." This made my speaking more natural. I started noticing these phrases in songs and movies, and I tried to use them in my own conversations. I also learned to celebrate small victories. Once, I had a conversation in English that lasted 5 minutes without switching to my native language. I was so proud of myself. I didn't care if I made a few mistakes because I had communicated my ideas. Moments like this reminded me that progress was happening, even if it was slow. My teacher often told me, "Confidence comes from practice." She was right. The more I spoke, the easier it became. I stopped worrying about what people thought of me. I realized that most people are kind and patient when you're trying to speak their language. They appreciate your effort. If you're learning English, remember that confidence doesn't come overnight. Start small, speak to yourself, practice with friends, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Every time you speak, you're improving. If you're enjoying these stories and want more tips to help you feel confident in English, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Your journey to fluency starts with small steps, and we're here to support you. Speaking is like learning to ride a bike. You might wobble and fall at first, but with practice, you'll find your balance and start moving forward with confidence. So, take a deep breath, speak your mind, and trust the process. Learning English doesn't have to feel like hard work all the time. In fact, some of the most effective ways to learn are also the most enjoyable. When I started looking for fun ways to practice, I realized that learning could feel like a game. It became something I looked forward to each day. One of my favorite techniques was storytelling. I would create short stories using the words I had recently learned. For example, if I learned words like cat, house, and tree, I would make up a story. The cat lives in a house. The house is near a tree. The cat climbs the tree every day. It was simple, but it helped me remember the words and how to use them in sentences. Another activity I loved was singing. Music has a way of making words stick in your mind. I started with children's songs because they were easy to understand. The Wheels on the Bus and Old MacDonald Had a Farm became my personal anthems. I sang them everywhere, while cooking, cleaning, or even walking outside. Singing made learning feel light and fun. One day, I decided to write my own song in English. It was a short song about my day. I wake up in the morning, I see the sun. I eat my breakfast, then I run. It wasn't perfect, but it made me smile. Writing and singing my own lyrics gave me confidence and helped me practice forming sentences. I also started playing games. One of my favorites was a vocabulary game I played with my friends. We would choose a category like animals and take turns naming words in English: the dog, cat, elephant. If someone couldn't think of a word, they were out. The game made us laugh and learn at the same time. Watching movies and TV shows became another fun way to learn. I chose shows with subtitles so I could read and listen at the same time. I paused when I heard a new word, wrote it down, and tried to use it later. One of my favorite moments was when I watched a scene from a movie and realized I could understand it without subtitles. It felt like magic. Drawing pictures was another creative method I used. If I learned a new word like apple, I would draw an apple and write the word next to it. These drawings helped me visualize the words, making them easier to remember. I even made a mini dictionary with my drawings. Flipping through it felt like opening a treasure chest of knowledge. Acting was something I never thought I would enjoy, but it became one of my best tools for learning. I pretended to be a character from a story or movie and spoke their lines. Sometimes I acted out simple situations like ordering food in a restaurant. "Hello, I would like a sandwich, please." Pretending made the practice feel real and exciting. Writing also became a fun activity. I wrote short notes to myself like, "Don't forget to smile today," or "You are learning so much." These little messages kept me motivated and gave me extra practice forming sentences. I also tried writing letters to imaginary friends. Writing gave me a chance to think about the language and use it creatively. One of the most exciting ways I practiced was through cooking. I found recipes in English and followed the steps. Words like mix, bake, and stir became part of my vocabulary. I even tried explaining the recipes to my family in English, which made the experience even more rewarding. Learning doesn't have to be serious all the time. When you find creative and enjoyable ways to practice, you stay motivated and make faster progress. Whether it's singing, acting, or drawing, there's always a way to add fun to your learning journey. If these ideas inspire you, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We share more creative ways to learn English and help you enjoy every step of the process. The more fun you have while learning, the more you'll look forward to practicing every day. Creativity turns learning into an adventure, and every adventure brings you closer to fluency. When I started learning English, I wanted to be fluent immediately. I thought, If I work hard for 1 month, I'll speak perfectly. But as the days passed, I realized something important. Fluency takes time. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And to complete this marathon, I needed patience and persistence. At first, I felt frustrated because I couldn't see progress right away. I studied every day, but I still made mistakes. I forgot words, mixed up grammar, and sometimes felt stuck. One day, my teacher said, "Think of learning English like growing a tree. You plant the seed, water it every day, and give it sunlight. At first, nothing happens, but slowly, the tree grows strong and tall." That idea stayed with me. I began to see every practice session as watering my English tree. Even when I didn't feel like I was improving, I reminded myself that growth was happening beneath the surface. I remember one particular moment that tested my patience. I was trying to write a short story in English. I spent hours on it, looking up words, fixing sentences, and rewriting. When I finished, I showed it to my teacher. She pointed out several mistakes, and I felt discouraged. But instead of giving up, I decided to rewrite the story. The second version was better, and by the third version, I was proud of my work. That experience taught me that persistence leads to improvement. Persistence also helped me with listening. At first, understanding spoken English was very difficult. When I listened to songs or conversations, I felt lost. But I kept trying. I listened to the same song many times, repeating the words until they became familiar. Over weeks and months, my listening skills improved. One day, I understood an entire conversation in a movie without subtitles. That moment felt like a reward for all my hard work. Speaking was another area where I needed patience. When I spoke to others, I often paused, searching for the right words. Sometimes I felt embarrassed and wanted to stop trying. But I reminded myself that fluency is a journey. Each conversation, no matter how difficult, was a step forward. To stay motivated, I celebrated small victories. When I learned 5 new words, I treated myself to a piece of chocolate. When I finished reading a short story in English, I called a friend to share my success. These small celebrations kept me excited about learning. There were times when I felt like quitting. Once, I had a week where nothing seemed to go right. I made mistakes in class, forgot words I had learned, and felt tired. I almost gave up. But then I remembered why I started learning English. I wanted to connect with people, explore new opportunities, and challenge myself. That reminder gave me the strength to keep going. Another thing that helped me stay persistent was creating a routine. Every morning I practiced speaking for 10 minutes. In the evening, I listened to a story or a song. My routine became a habit, and soon it felt natural. Even on days when I didn't feel motivated, my routine kept me practicing. I also learned to be kind to myself. When I made mistakes, I didn't get angry or upset. I said, "It's okay." Mistakes are part of learning. Being patient with myself made the process more enjoyable and less stressful. If you're learning English, remember that progress takes time. Be patient, keep practicing, and trust that you are improving, even if you don't see it right away. Celebrate your small victories, stay persistent, and never give up. If this story resonates with you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We're here to support you on your journey to fluency, one step at a time. Patience and persistence are like the roots of a tree. They may not be visible, but they give you the strength to grow. Keep watering your tree, and one day you'll look back and see how far you've come. When I think about everything I've learned on my English journey, one thing stands out. Fluency is not just about speaking well. It's about connecting with the world. Every word I've learned, every sentence I've spoken, has opened new doors for me, doors to new friendships, experiences, and opportunities. I remember the first time I had a long conversation in English. It was with a traveler at a small cafe in my city. We talked about our favorite books and places we wanted to visit. The conversation wasn't perfect. I paused a lot, and sometimes I used the wrong words, but we understood each other. When we said goodbye, he smiled and said, "Thank you for the chat." That moment made me realize that fluency is not about perfection. It's about connection. As I kept learning, I found that English gave me the confidence to explore. I watched movies without subtitles, read books that once seemed too difficult, and even helped a friend with their English homework. Each of these moments felt like stepping into a bigger world. One of the most beautiful parts of learning English has been the friendships I've made. I met people from different countries who shared their stories, traditions, and cultures with me. Through our conversations, I learned that even though we come from different places, we have so much in common. English became the bridge that connected us. Learning English also taught me to appreciate the small steps. Each word I learned, each mistake I corrected, brought me closer to my goal. It wasn't always easy, but every challenge was worth it. The journey itself became as important as the destination. Now, I want to share one final piece of advice with you. Don't rush. Enjoy the process. Learning a language is a lifelong journey, and there's always something new to discover. Be curious, be patient, and remember to celebrate every small victory. If you've enjoyed these stories and want to continue growing your English skills, I invite you to watch our next video. It's full of tips, stories, and inspiration to help you on your journey. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss a chance to learn and grow. Fluency is more than just words. It's about opening your heart and mind to the world. Keep learning, keep speaking, and I can't wait to see how far you'll go.